Hey RedEye, I'm Alison Sudol of A Fine Frenzy, and thanks for watching.
You tweeted earlier today that you wanted to rent an old bike from someone. Why?
Yes.
How come?
That's a secret. Borrow a bike for something that I'm doing, a little project that I'm doing.
So I'll assume that you can ride a bike and play piano at the same time at your show tonight, probably.
I can barely ride a bike, period.
Really?
Yeah, I actually only learned like 4 years ago. So,
Was it challenging to do that as an adult?
Very, and humbling, and also I did it in Amsterdam. I just decided to rent a bike in Amsterdam, and it's pretty much the worst place. Like, if you're gonna learn how to ride a bike as an adult, do it somewhere where there's no people in the middle of the countryside. Don't do it where like people are born on bikes, basically. I mean, I actually hit a whole group of people on bikes on my bike.
You did?
Yeah, it was awesome.
What did they say? What was the reaction?
They were just, I was so horrified that they were clearly like, okay, all right. I was just like, I'm so sorry, I've never ridden a bike, I'm sorry. And they were like, oh, that's okay, just leave, like, go away.
So what can people expect from your live show tonight?
It's quite a different sort of show. The first half is very intimate and very quiet and quite like dreamy almost, and then the second half is very wild and fun. The whole thing is a journey. It's sort of a condensed version of the record, which is a story.
You have such a gorgeous voice. How often do you give yourself chills?
No.
Have you ever heard yourself do something and be like, oh, that was pretty good?
Sometimes I'm like, okay, that's fine. Like, I can listen to that.
That's fine. That's the best.
Fine. Yeah. I think this record is the proudest I've ever let myself be, mainly because I know how far into unknown territory I went. I didn't play it safe on this record, and I think I'm proudest of that I sang things that I wasn't sure if I could, and so whenever I hear something like that, I'm like, that's cool. That was a learned skill.
Well, you've talked about how privately this record came together and kind of the process of actually bringing it out into the world. Why is that sort of the reason why you did it so privately? Because you were going to this new territory, or why did you feel like you wanted to kind of put everything else aside while you're doing this?
Well, there were a few different reasons. One is that in my creative process in the previous record, there had been more input, like as I was writing, and it definitely messed me up a little bit. I lost my center a bit when I was writing, and I needed to just hone in kind of this time on what I wanted to say, and then also, frankly, I thought everyone would think I was crazy. I wrote a record about a tree, and I was very aware of how nuts that sounded.
What do you feel like is the ideal listening environment for this new record? And have you listened to it in the forest yet? I
have, and it actually, like right after I finished the record, it wasn't mixed yet, but I went up to the redwoods, and I started listening to it in different environments, and I was listening to it walking through the redwoods, which was pretty magical, and then also I drove from like Mendocino through Napa down to my grandparents' house, and it was raining, and there were just like beautiful fields with farmhouses and vineyards and hills and forests, and I was driving listening to the record, and that was a pretty powerful way to listen.
So that's what you'd recommend to people?
Yeah. I mean, it's also great to listen to just like when you're at home, like in front of the fire or something, or but it's definitely something that's good to have like quiet, because it's there's a lot of really still moments in it, and if you're like trying to run around, you might be like, it's too slow or something.
Why did you think people would laugh when you said that the album was somewhat of a fable?
I just didn't know what to expect, I think I was so vulnerable with it, and cared so much that I think I just didn't know how people would take it, and I just didn't want to get deterred. So I think it was just more like if someone happened to say something, because on the previous record it was just like there were just like 3 or 4 comments made that were very offhand that like rattled around in my brain for such a long time. I'm really sensitive when I'm writing.
About the material that was on the last album?
About, yeah, when I was writing. So it, and it really stuck with me and it caused me a lot of pain. So I just figured like this time around I would just not even risk it.
I certainly don't want to make you relive anything, but are you able to give any sense of what those comments were or why they struck such a chord?
I think, well, I think it doesn't really matter what the comments were because it's more the effect that they had. I mean, I think the only reason they had such an effect on me was because emotionally I wasn't really stable, I wasn't centered, and that had nothing to do with anybody else. That had to do with me and my life, and having gone through quite a huge life transformation from writing songs in my parents' garage and living at home to like touring all over the place and having major pressure and being looked at and not necessarily being a private person anymore and being really hard on myself and just I was so raw by the time that I started writing that record, and was trying to not be raw, so I was trying to just be like, no, I'm fine, I'm good, I'm just going to make another record, and it put me in a very weird mental space. So like literally, it wouldn't have mattered. Someone was going to say something that was going to mess with my head. It doesn't have anything to do with anybody else. Now I realize that, now that I've gone through this whole process, that no one can shake you unless you let them shake you.
Is this direction something that is like, was really taking hold of you now and is not, and I mean this in a good way, like getting out of your system, or is it something that you sort of don't go back from and you continue following and sort of the more popular stuff over the earlier records is kind of a thing of the past?
Well, I think I never really intended to be poppy anyway. I think I just didn't really know how to convey what I was thinking as well. I mean, I think on One Cell I explored it and I hid it in a lot of places, and then but I was so young, I was just like, I didn't know what I was doing. It was all sort of just blindly, hitting upon things. And then in Bomb I was just exploring other places, but I think musically I'll probably do lots of different things in the future, but one thing that I don't have now is fear of kind of going to the left and letting songs breathe, and I don't know, I don't really, I'm not a pop star no matter what, and I think just embracing that is cool.
Well, as far as not seeing yourself as a pop star, what do you think about, you're doing this obviously very passionate, personal, kind of beautiful stuff, and lately everything that you hear is about stars like Britney Spears, Nicki Minaj, Christina Aguilera are getting attached as judges on The Voice or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that trend of where it seems like musicians are kind of moving on to the point of where they're not even recording artists as much as like vocal judges?
Right. Well, I mean, I think it's all just different choices, I mean, I would be just the worst judge because I can't even imagine. Well, first of all, that's not the way that I approach music anyway, so I would just gravitate towards all the people that would be like, why are you going for this person? But I don't know. I mean, I think it's great to grow. I think it's great to expand. I mean, I wrote a book and I made a film, and that was so wonderful and challenging. And at the end of the day, music is my center, it's my core. But it's cool. I mean, I think everyone has their own path.
Why do you think you wouldn't be a good judge, though? I mean, all due respect to Britney Spears, but you can actually sing.
Thank you. I think judging has nothing to do with singing. I mean, I don't know that Simon Cowell sings.
True.
And I think that I approach music as an art form, and I believe in singing from the heart, and I don't think it's necessarily who can hit the highest note or the longest note or the loudest or, do the most runs or be the most showy. For me, that's not what music is about, but that's not necessarily what will win you a competition. So I don't know. I mean, I don't even watch them. I don't know. There's like a singer-songwriter guy, though, that won one of the things, right, recently? So I don't know. It's all changing, but I would just hate it, to be honest. I can't imagine, like, telling people they're not any good or, it's so sensitive and so hard I couldn't compete in one of those things. I wouldn't get past the first thing. That's so good.
I think that's just about all I had. What else do you still want to do that you haven't come to do it? What do you want to do next?
Oh, there's so many things. I feel like my life has just begun in a funny way at 27. I want to do way more with the environment. I want to find more ways of planting trees and helping fight against deforestation. I want to do more stuff with kids. I love working with kids, and the record is and the book are very sort of, and the film too, are all very centered around around children and appealing to kids. And I want to travel more and see more of the world.
Where do you want to go?
Iceland, Japan, South America, Australia, Scandinavia.
Will you avoid riding your bike in those places, though, just to be safe?
I will avoid riding my bike pretty much everywhere. I will avoid, unless there's like an area with nothing happening.